assembly. I would like to start with our learning target and essential question. And some of the words are written in red. I would like for you to read those with me. So I will read and you join me with the words written in red. I will increase my knowledge and awareness about my peers with autism and use that knowledge to avoid negative stigmas and stereotypes associated with individuals with autism. Our essential question today is, how can I increase my own awareness and acceptance of autism and use that understanding to be open, compassionate, and most importantly, to be kind to those individuals with autism? Okay, so thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Tad Hansen. He is our autism specialist for our school. Here you go, Tad.
So early this year, Mrs. Oakes asked for my help for this assembly, and I thought it was an amazing opportunity. And also, I'm super intimidated by it because I think it's important. So I'll just introduce first my nephew, Jordan. For most of his life, he was called Scooter, but then about a year ago, he decided he wanted to go by his real name. He is 16 and a junior in high school in Hillsborough at Liberty. His father works at Liberty High School. He has autism, and I have permission from him and his parents to introduce you to him through this presentation. The reason I wanted to do that is because I thought, in 10 minutes, how can I help you understand autism and be more able to accept those who have it? And I thought, what better than with hilarious videos that my sister has posted on Facebook of him while describing what autism is through him. But I also just want to be upfront about my thought process with this. It would be real easy to do an assembly about autism and either go in one direction saying, wow, aren't all of these people with autism so great? Or on the other hand saying, autism is really hard and it being a sob story. And my sister, I talked to her about this, she wanted me to be right in the middle where it is just, autism is being different, and being different is good. And the age that all of you are right now in adolescence, it's rough. I went through it. Developmentally, you're at this phase where you're not a child, and you're not an adult, and you kind of feel a need to fit in. And so if you're different, it's kind of hard. And I just want to sort of try to help you see some of those differences and be proud of them and accept them. And those who have autism have a lot of them too. So let's go to the next frame. Can we turn these lights off that are up here? Okay. So this is Jordan as he looks now in high school, and he's wearing an umbrella in the middle of a hallway at school because the lights sometimes really bother him. Many people who have autism experience the world differently. They are either, through their senses, either really sensitive or not sensitive enough. And in this case, he was very sensitive to light. He's at the mall at Washington Square, eating Cheetos on pizza, wearing hearing protection because the noise bothers him, and wearing sunglasses because the lights bother him. But it was definitely worth going to the food court to get Cheetos and have them on pizza. Next. So, at the beach on the swing set, wearing hearing protection because the sounds bothered him, but everything else was fun. When he was younger, he loved getting naked and covering himself in mud in the backyard. And there he is with some of his staff also wearing hearing protection. Okay, next. Another aspect of autism is communication differences. And when we communicate, it means we're sending a message to someone and we're also receiving and understanding that message. My nephew, Jordan, taught himself how to read before he would speak. He was what they call hyperlexic, and he learned all of the letters, but only capital letters. So this is a note he wrote a few months ago on his door. Do not break in, attention, no parents allowed in room. I thought maybe some of you could relate, but it's all capital letters. Next slide, please. So this video also can, I think, show some of the communication differences that he has. Raise your hand if you've heard of Uncle Cracker. Okay, a few of you. I never had before. I'm not very hip. I had to Google him. This is my nephew talking about him. Would you hit play on the video, please? Oh, back. Yeah, you gotta find the little play button.
Okay. Go ahead, Scooter. Does Uncle Cracker make pudding?
No.
Yeah.
No, he's not your uncle.
Yes.
No.
Yes, he is your uncle.
How is he your uncle?
He does making pudding.
Uncle Cracker does not make you pudding.
I'm done.
And he's not your uncle.
So, Uncle Cracker apparently is a musician. I don't know, country musician or something. But he mixed up some of the pronouns, you know. He said he does make pudding instead of he makes pudding or he is making pudding. And he was making a joke. I don't get it, and I don't know if anybody does, but to him it was hilarious. Next. Okay, a little bit about Jordan's father. Jordan is big. He's an inch bigger than I am now. He looks like his father and I had a baby. Jordan's father is a football and wrestling coach. Very athletic, I am not. And Jordan takes after me. He's much more interested in music than sports. So, play the video, please.
Down! How many is that? 3! No, you're supposed to say, who cares? Let's do some more. Come on. Ready? Go. Down! 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 How many is that? 3! How many is that? 2!
So say we don't care.
So, many people who have... Oh, I wanted to say, by the way, that I am using videos that are funny because I love my nephew and I love everything about him. I don't want to give the impression that I'm making fun of his autism. I just want to be very clear that I am enjoying it. And in this video, he took the question very literally. How many is that? Although he was supposed to say, who cares, because it's some line from a movie or something, but he just kept answering the question literally. That's kind of one of the communication differences of autism as well. Next frame, please. Social differences is the third area of autism. And let's just play the video. I'll kind of narrate it as we go.
Scooter, what you doing here? Where's my pillow? Scooter found the feather pillows and the scissors. There's the scissors.
It's okay.
Here's what used to be a very nice pillow.
We're gonna calm down. We're gonna calm down.
Yeah, what'd you do to Mom's pillow?
It's broken.
How did it get broken?
We need to get a different pillow.
Do we?
I'm gonna put this on, like, it would be.
Look at the feathers. Who's gonna clean it up?
That.
Scooter, who's cleaning up the feathers?
So, one of the social differences of many who have autism is they do not understand the unwritten rules. By unwritten rules, I say that many of those of us who are neurotypical, we just sort of know socially what to do and what not to do based on what we see others do. And for Jordan, he needs to be told some of those things because he just won't catch it by seeing other people and won't be able to copy that. For example, knowing that you don't cut open a pillow and put the feathers everywhere. This is one of those unwritten rules he didn't get. Another one is, at school at the time, Jordan was having a lot of difficulty where he would get overwhelmed and might have some disruptive behaviors. And his teachers would say, we're going to calm down. He noticed his mother getting upset and started using that strategy to keep her from having a meltdown. Next one, please. So, I have to tell a story about this one. My wife and I were taking Jordan to the tennis courts at Liberty High School, and we had a little bicycle with a trailer that we put him in, so he loved catching the balls when we would play tennis. But then he had to pee. And I decided that since home was too far away for him to make it without an accident, that it was one of those rare circumstances where we would have to find a discreet corner, and I taught him how to pee standing up behind some trees. I didn't understand autism as much at the time, so I didn't foresee him 5 minutes later peeing in front of a couple walking their dog, or peeing on the sidewalk, or when he got home, peeing on the floor, being next to the toilet, and still to this day, 10 years later, my sister really dislikes the fact that I taught him how to pee standing up. So she made this Scooter sit down to pee from Santa, trying to keep that under control. It was another one of those unwritten rules. My nephew didn't really care who saw him do what. The difference between private and public to him just doesn't matter. Next one, please. Okay. Patterns of repetitive behavior is the fourth area of autism that's hard to explain. Usually it involves having a very narrow set of interests or being hyper-focused on one thing. And one of those things that Jordan is hyper-focused on is Paul Blart, Mall Cop. Anybody seen the movie? Anybody? So this video is a very low volume, so we may need to turn it up. And it's also only like 1 second long. We might need to play it twice.
What does it feels the crap in the heart?
So again, a little louder. Yeah.
What does it feels the crap in the heart?
Recorded on a phone. He's saying peanut butter fills the crack in the heart, and it really does. So next one. Okay. He also loves music. This one doesn't need explanation.
Clear nay.
I got your whip, got your nay. I got your whip, watch me nay.
To this day, I have not actually heard that song. I just know that you probably all have. Next. Okay, so in conclusion of my portion of this, I just hope you all know that my nephew is one of a kind, and everyone with autism is not just like him. There are a lot of people who are different. His mother says that when she learned, finally, to accept him for who he is and all of him, that he noticed and he changed and he felt more loved and his behavior became a little bit easier. And so I hope that all of you can look at those with autism and maybe notice that and accept them for who they are.
Hi, well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is William Worley. I am a graduate student attending Western Oregon University, and I am studying special education, which means that after when I graduate, I will be teaching kids with special needs, and I'm hoping to go into autism specialing as well. So, has anyone ever heard of autism? Well, for those of you who do not understand autism, this is something that I have. This is what I'm diagnosed with. It means that I have something that makes it hard for me to learn like others. It doesn't exactly mean that my brain is damaged or that I'm physically injured. There's just something inside of me that makes me different than other people. My mom and I were unsure of whether or not the type of autism I have is Asperger's, because when I was really little, I was very low functioning and nonverbal, probably until I was like 6 years old. But now, as of today, I am very high functioning. Now, just because I'm different doesn't really mean that I'm a bad person, because everyone is different, and that's what makes us all awesome. People with autism can experience it in so many different ways. They can be very similar, but it's still different. I used to work at a summer camp called Meadowwood Springs. It's a summer camp for kids with speech, hearing, and other disabilities. And I met a lot of different autistic kids there as well. One kid, he was a very big kid, and he had temperamental issues if things did not go the way he wanted them to do. He would just scream and cuss at the top of his lungs. He would throw objects, or he would just shove and hit people who were nearby him. And I worked with another kid as well. He was probably like 15 years old, but he looked like he was 8 years old, and he hardly spoke at all. If he ever did speak, it was so quiet that you had to put your ear close to his mouth to actually hear what he was saying. And sometimes he would wander off into his own fantasy world, and you could never predict where or when he would wander off. Can we go to the next slide? And next one. Okay, well. I want to give you all a brief background about what it was like for me growing up with autism. Growing up with autism was very, very hard for me, and for my mother as well. When I was about 18 months old, that's when my mom started to notice something very strange within me. My mom said that I was very odd. The first behavior that she noticed that was different from me was that I did everything exactly the same. I took the same amount of steps, did the same gestures, and had exactly the same routine. For example, when she was pregnant with my younger sister, our day would be very identical. We would get up, eat breakfast, read my baby book, go for a walk, take a bath, eat lunch, nap, go for a swim, play, meet Daddy after he gets off of work, have dinner, swim again, and then bedtime. I would do exactly the same thing every day. My steps towards the kitchen for breakfast would be the same as before. My reaction to reading my baby book would be the same. I would wave at people, whether they were there or not, just the same every day. I didn't really play a lot until my sister was born. I had toys, and my mom would try to get me to play with the toys that she bought for me, but I watched my sister put the toys in her mouth and bang them on the table, and I would do exactly the same thing. Now, my mom started me in early intervention when I was 2, and I worked one-on-one with a paraprofessional from the school at my home. And I was also sent to preschool so that I could hang out with other children. I wasn't diagnosed as autistic at the time, though the professionals thought I was. And my mom, she just did not want to believe that there was something wrong with me. And rather than receiving the support and help that she needed, she was instead told by the professionals that I would never grow up, that I would never graduate from school, and that I would never succeed in life as an independent human being. And at first, she felt very devastated. As if a group of doctors, very professional, at the top of their game, were all just gaining up on her and punching her hard in the stomach. And she cried all the way home, from Portland to Salem, which is about an hour drive, and cried herself to sleep. I went to public school from kindergarten through 3rd grade. People did treat me fairly well for the first 3 years, and I wasn't really bullied at the time. I had friends through small groups that my mom started. But by the time I was in 3rd grade, my mom was very concerned with how my teachers were treating me. She saw that there was a teacher outside of our classroom yelling at me. Now, I don't remember any of this, but this is all coming from what my mom said. And at this time, my school labeled me as a low IQ/mentally retarded human being. And even though they had no right to do so, and my mom was just not receiving any of the support she had for my autism. So I was then homeschooled from 4th grade to 10th grade. And my mom kept me active in our homeschool organization. I would do certain activities like Taekwondo, 4-H, Awanas. I was bullied at times, but not until when I reached 10th grade. By the time I reached 10th grade, I started public school again, and then that was when I was bullied very badly for being different. One person who bullied me badly, he was a big guy, and he was just a grade ahead of me. He was a year older than me. He was a very talented basketball player, and he could be in the NBA by now. But he would just constantly make fun of me everywhere I went. He would tease me. He would call me gay, stupid. One time during basketball practice, he kneed me over in the crotch, and he was laughing his head off when he did that. He said that he was glad he did that too. And he also said that he did not want to go out for the tennis team because I was in it as well, which made me feel very resented. Another bully I dealt with was a high school senior. Now, at first, she was very nice to me, and she was the only one who danced with me at high school dances that I attended. But then there was one time when I was in the play, Anna Green Gables. I was sitting backstage, I got bored, I was all by myself, and I was just kind of tapping my feet, fidgeting. And then all of a sudden, she just came right into my face, and she screamed, "Knock it off!" And I was just completely shut down, I was overcome with fear, sadness, and then later anger. And I just could not focus or concentrate on anything around me at the time. Because I'm actually very sensitive to how people carry their tones of voice towards me. So, these are some of the symptoms or things that I struggle with as I have autism. The way I talk or communicate to others is a lot different than the way other people communicate. As I was growing up, I always had problems expressing my thoughts. I just could not get out of my mind what I wanted to say. It would just be fragments of a sentence or just a few words. I usually often have to write down what it is that I want to say. Or sometimes I can't understand what the other person is saying to me. And that's the main reason why I struggle with learning as well. Sometimes when I say things to people, they get very upset and take it offensively, even though that was not my intention. Sometimes I try to listen to other conversations and jump in, but when I did jump in, I would end up saying the wrong thing that had nothing to do with the conversation, and then everybody in that group would just glare at me, and just judge me badly. An example of what I'm talking about a few years ago, I was in the play called A Flea in Her Ear. When I was backstage, one of the actresses, she was wearing a tight black dress as part of her character, and she was also wearing high heels as well. She wanted to walk over to the vending machine to get a snack, but she had trouble walking in her heels. So later, she just gave up and said, "All right, screw it, I'm not going to the vending machine." And I said, "Well, good thing too, otherwise you're not going to fit in your dress." Yeah, see, at the time, I did not know that I was actually calling her fat, even though that's how she took it. Sometimes, I am not used to change. Now, example of how I'm not used to change, when I was getting my undergraduate degree over at Eastern Oregon University, that required me to move out of my house and live in my own apartment. And I was going to be away from my family, and I was not used to that. So, once I got settled into my new apartment, that night, it was very hot, so I left the windows open to let it cool down. And then in the middle of the night, my window slammed down really hard, and then glass shattered everywhere, and then I sprung wide awake because I thought I was being shot at, when I saw glass shattered everywhere. And I was just so scared and terrified, and I didn't want to be at my apartment anymore, and I just immediately wanted to quit school and go back home. Sometimes I get intimidated very easily. Is anybody here familiar with Star Wars? Okay, that's awesome. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I've been a big fan of Star Wars since I was probably 7. So there's the movie Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. Towards the end of the film, our protagonist, Luke Skywalker, he's facing off in an intense lightsaber battle with Darth Vader, the antagonist. And they're fighting inside this very dark reactor shaft. Now, I don't know why, but that shaft has always scared me ever since I was 7, and it still scares me now. It's not the fact that Luke has his hand cut off, and it's not because we learned that Darth Vader is Luke's father. It's just that shaft, you know. It's so dark, it's so big, there's radical lights everywhere. You look down and you see nothing but a black, bottomless pit or abyss. And I had reoccurring nightmares since I was 7 up till now of me being entrapped inside that shaft. You know, I open a door, next thing you know, I'm in that shaft. Or I'm falling down that shaft. Or I'm scaling the walls, hanging on for dear life inside that shaft. I also have a unique set of skills. Now, when I say this, I'm not saying that only I can understand or do these set of skills. I just have a different way of learning it and expressing it. When I was a kid, I was really good at math, such as adding and multiplying. And I also had a photographic memory as well. Probably up till now, I can probably memorize, each of the Oscars, like who won Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Director, what won Best Picture, what won Best Visual Effects, Sound Design. I'm also very literal. That means that when people say things to me, I take it seriously, even though people are either joking around or don't really mean it. When I was a sophomore in high school, in my health class, I first heard the term, smoke a joint. And I was kind of surprised by that. I had never heard the term, smoke a joint. And I asked, what is smoking a joint? Is it this? The way I act is a lot different than the way other people act. Sometimes I make different sounds than other people do, and I tend to fantasize and daydream a lot. Everywhere I go, I live in my own world. I would act out my favorite scenes from my favorite movies, like Star Wars, for instance. Almost everywhere I go, I would wield my 2 hands together as if I am in a lightsaber duel, or shake my hand like a gun, fire it as if I'm wielding a blaster. I would mimic the sound effects. I could hear the music playing as I'm in those battle scenes as well. I just want to show you a video clip of what it's like for me to be in my fantasy world. Can we go to the next slide? Next one. That scares me, by the way. Okay. Oh, previous. So we got to find the play button. There it is. Okay, so that concludes my little fantasy world there. Another thing that I did struggle with was eye contact. I was never good at looking people in the eye. I can do it now, but as I was growing up, I never could look people in the eye. Whenever I made contact with people or engaged in conversations, I would just look at objects or something that was near the person's eyes. Probably like their ear or their hair or a piece of jewelry that they're wearing. But eye contact was hard for me back then. Now, why do I experience all these strange and unique things? This is my answer. It's not the official answer, but my answer is because I'm trapped inside of what I call the autism cloud. There can be like 100 different names for it, but this is just what I call it. So what is the autism cloud? Next slide. So try and picture this. You have your brain as the main source of your mind, and you have thousands of reliable information sources. It can be books, the internet, videos, lectures, magazines, all that are attempting to feed information into your brain. However, next slide, something is blocking or preventing that information from entering your mind. Nobody is able to see or identify what that barrier is. But what it was like for me growing up and being in the autism cloud, when I was really little, I felt as if I had a thick piece of cloth just laid over the top of my face, and I had earplugs as well. If you were to take a piece of cloth and put it over my face, I may be able to barely see through it, but not to the point where I have an idea of what's going on in my surroundings. And if I were to wear earplugs, I'm not going to be completely deaf, but it does limit my hearing to a point where I can't understand what's going on around me. And people always thought that snapping at me, getting right into my face, or screaming was a good way to get my attention, and that's where they're wrong. As I got older, it became easier for me to break that barrier and start gaining more knowledge. However, the thing with autism is that it may be easy for me to gain knowledge, but it's hard for me to express it. When I got older, that cloth that served as a barrier began to form into a cloud that would surround me and be stuck in front of me. Can we go back a couple slides? Now, instead of a cloud that is made of water and vapor, this cloud is made of visions. Visions of what I think my future would be like. Visions from movies, from books, or visions from my past events. When I'm stuck inside that cloud, I can sometimes see those visual sources at 100% or 10%. Same with the audio. I can hear the audio coming from those sources at 100%. Or at muted level. There's no really set time as to when I can see or hear them at a perfect level. It just happens at random times. That cloud can consist of either good or bad. The good thing about it is that it can be filled with images that I love. The bad thing is it can contain the opposite. Now I just want to show you a quick video of what it was like for me to be trapped inside the autism cloud.
So for a freshman paper, what you'll need to do is documentation, and that has five steps. So your output, documentation, strategy. So the first question that we need to cover is there a problem that needs and if your answer is no, then you don't have a paper to write. So your first job to do is to convince your audience that there's a problem. Powder
not caught. Try and hold them off. Angle of the deflector shield while I make the calculations for the jumper light speed.
Really solve this problem.
I think stay low.
Red 5, I'm going in.
All right, now the last thing I want to talk about is something that really helped me grow. I want to really talk about how you can really help a person with autism. First, there's hobbies. Everybody needs to have a hobby because hobbies really build confidence, and confidence can really help a person go a long ways. One of my favorite hobbies is art. Obviously, you saw that I'm pretty crafty with visual effects in my videos as well. Art just really helps me with my self-expression, meaning that it helps me bring what's inside of me into the outside world. Hobbies are also really great because you'll have the opportunity to meet new people and socialize with others. And socializing is a really great way to help you grow. Next slide. That's one of my art pictures that I drew as well. Next one. Next one. And then there's engage in physical activities. I was very involved in theater, like Shrek the Musical, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. When I was involved in theater, it gave me a chance to move around the stage, learn all sorts of choreography, dancing, and it gave me an opportunity to interact with others as well. Definitely be patient. Patience is something that is required when you are dealing with people with autism. Never shout at them. Shouting is going to shut them down, it's going to make them feel insecure, and it's going to make it hard for them to concentrate. Definitely don't be afraid of failure. Many people just don't realize that mistakes are one of the best learning experiences ever. If you do something and it doesn't go wrong, you know what you did wrong, and you can find a way to work around that and do it right next time. And then goals. Giving a person goals is something that can really help you go a long ways. It gives you motivation, they're healthy distractions, and it helps you achieve positive outcomes. And then lastly, accept autistic people for who they are. People nowadays are so judgmental of others that are different, and they are very critical of them as well, because they're just not like the people that they want them to be. But if you're going to judge a person with autism, how do you expect them to grow and get better? So, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, William. Great job. So we'd like to take just a minute to do a turn and talk to a neighbor. Kind of, what did you hear that you particularly learned about? Just a quick turn and talk. Okay, so quick, that was pretty quick. We have about, 20, 15 seconds, something like that. So I just want to thank you to the teachers that brought their class to our Autism Awareness Assembly, and everybody have a good rest of your afternoon. Thank you.